welcome. And I want to share with you my theme for today. I've chosen this theme. It is based off our theme from our Wednesday Bible study group which we had on Zoom. So for those of you who were there on Zoom, hopefully this will enhance your experience. And it's a good theme. The theme I've chosen is, who do you say I am? Who do you say I am? And it's based on Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 to 17, where Jesus asked this very question to his disciples. And he asked them these questions. And you know, some theologians actually argue that all of life hinges on this question. All of life hinges on this very same question. Who do you say I am? And at some point in life, everybody is going to face this question. Everybody faces this question. Was he a prophet? Was he a moral teacher? Was he a heretic? Was he the Messiah? Was he the Son of God? Who is Jesus to you? And this same very question is actually found throughout the Gospel. We find it in Matthew 16, in Mark 8, and in Luke 9. And in all three accounts, Jesus starts with this question. Who do the people, who do the crowds say I am? Who do they say I am? And it's clear that there are mixed opinions to identify Jesus. Some say he's John the Baptist raised from the dead. Others say Elijah. Some say Jeremiah the prophet. And there's a lot of speculation in the world out there of who he really is. Now, Simon Peter, one of the disciples, has this revelation. The way the Bible explains it is that God himself has given Simon Peter this revelation of who Jesus is. He's the Messiah, the Son of the living God. You know, and the disciples were just starting to understand who Jesus is, who he is. You know, and the title of Messiah is often misunderstood, and especially at this time during the Bible times, most expected the Messiah to be somebody, to be a military leader, to come and overthrow the Roman occupation, to come and push them back. But at least now we understand that Jesus comes to do much more than just to free us from earthly rule and earthly oppression and earthly slavery. Jesus is here to give us so much more. And it would still take until after Jesus' death, after his resurrection, for the disciples to quite get it. It's easy for us. We're looking in retrospect. We're looking over 2,000 years. We understand a little better the situation. But when they were in the middle of that, it must have been really hard to grasp it, to get it. Now, I am is an important phrase throughout the Bible. God first declares this name for himself in Exodus chapter 3 when he appears to Moses. Remember the burning bush? And Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is your name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. That is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Interestingly, Jesus also uses multiple I am declarations in the New Testament. Here's a couple for you. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door or the gate for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the true vine. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. Now that last I am, that last declaration has proven very troublesome for people throughout the years. In John 14 verse 6, Jesus is rejecting this popular notion that there are multiple ways to get into heaven. He's refuting the theory that many roads lead to Rome. The theory is also otherwise known as universalism. And I was talking to Rachel this morning about universalism, this concept that has been a concept that's popped its head above the parapet every now and again. And then the church has actually knocked it back down and said, no, that's heresy. So universalism in Christian theology is also defined as a concept that promotes a universal reconciliation to Father God, or a universal salvation for everybody. That's where every human being will automatically go to heaven, whether they are good or bad, and that's because they believe God is a good God and He will save everybody. But this theory is widely viewed as heresy, and it contradicts the teaching that salvation is only found through Jesus. And if we take a step back and try to work out our understanding of who Jesus is and what He has to offer us, it impacts on our understanding of salvation. Because if there are alternative routes to eternal salvation, then what is the point of Jesus' death? What is the point of Him rising again and conquering death? Was it all in vain? What do we celebrate at Easter time? What is the point of the Salvation Army? What is the point if Jesus is not the foundation and cornerstone of our faith? What is the point of holiness? Why do we need to bother with holiness if we will all, by default, go to heaven? Now, this week I came across, that's universalism. This week I came across an old sort of TV segment. You'll know or remember Oprah Winfrey now, don't you? She was very, very popular in the 1990s with her talk show. It was always very interesting. There were some heated debates and heated conversations. And this is one really interesting interaction that took place between Oprah and a Christian audience member. It's fascinating to watch. This is what Oprah said. There are many paths to what you call God. The audience member were quite righteously angry, stood up and said, no, there is only one way, and that is through Jesus. And Oprah responds, there couldn't possibly be just one way. Which was very interesting. And this whole I watched the interaction, it was very fascinating to watch. But Oprah takes the secular view that if you are a good person, if you follow that inner light, whatever that means for you, you will get to heaven. However, this is counter-argued by most Christians as a New Age perspective. And I believe that it is a common falsehood. Oprah's view of Jesus is, he was a positive character. But he's not seen as the only way to salvation. Her interpretation is that Jesus was a good person. He was a good teacher, a good prophet, a good role model. But her outlook, her understanding of Jesus impacts all of her audience members. I think in reality, especially in our society, there is this understanding that would agree with Oprah's view, arguing that as long as you are a good person with a good heart, you will go to heaven. Again, I asked the question, well, what was the point of Jesus' personal sacrifice? Why did Jesus teach the things He taught in the Bible? Why did He demonstrate what He did if it doesn't matter which way you follow and which path you tread? Always good to come back to Scripture. Let's have a look. So Acts 4 verse 12 tells us that salvation is to be found through Him, that's Jesus alone. In all the world there is no one else whom God has given who can save us. That's from the Good News translation. The Amplified, I like this version. It says that there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven that has been given among people by which we must be saved. For God has provided the world no alternative for salvation. Very straightforward there for us. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9 again tells us that God saved you by His grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. It's a gift of grace. Salvation is a gift from grace. There's no other way. And if we agree with the Bible, then salvation is only found in Jesus. There's nothing we can do that can earn our way into heaven apart from knowing Jesus and understanding who He is. Now, Oprah, along with so many people, have, in my opinion, misunderstood who Jesus is. In a later TV interview, Oprah confesses that she did actually grow up in a Baptist church. She had to fight to find a seat with her mother because the church was always packed and there was a charismatic preacher every Sunday. But she confesses, I didn't always understand the preacher's sermons, especially the sermons which tried to unpack who God was. It's a side note, but one of the areas was that when the preacher said that God is a jealous God, she didn't quite agree with that. If God is omnipresent, all-knowing, how can he be jealous? How can he be jealous? It didn't sit well with her. And because of that sermon she heard when she was 28, she shifted away from the conservative Christian viewpoint. Sadly, many people look up to Oprah Winfrey, and I think that over the years, she may have really influenced a lot of people's views, especially when it comes to her understanding of God. Was he just a good man that we can learn so many good moral lessons from, but not seen as the only way to heaven? So I come back to the question, who do you say is Jesus? Now, we know C.S. Lewis, the famous British author who is famous for writing the Chronicles of Narnia, had this to say about his interpretation of Jesus. I am trying here to prevent anything saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. This is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with the man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool. You can spit at him and kill him as a demon. Or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open for us. He did not intend to. Now, it seems to me obvious that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend, and consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have to accept the view that he was and is God. Who do you say he is? All life hinges on this very question. And C.S. Lewis makes it very clear that we either accept Jesus for who he really is, or we don't. We cannot sit on the fence about this issue. So the core principle that sets Christianity apart from any other religion is our belief in that the supreme God of the universe took on human flesh, lived among us, and then in his immense love died that we might be forgiven. If we are willing to claim Jesus as Lord and submit ourselves to him in this way, we are invited to live with him forever in heaven. That's the good news. This is something no prophet, no teacher, no revolutionary can offer us. And the question remains, are you willing to accept the great power and love of Jesus Christ, who is the Son of the living God?